are. Oh, good evening, Heidi, Katrina, Aaron, Nisharda.
Good evening,
Good,
everyone.
good to see you all.
Hi.
As a matter of fact, Heidi, are you ready to read?
Yes, I am.
Okay, how about we're studying, of course, we're reading and reflecting on Mirabai, and this is her poem, 100 Objects Close By.
Oh, what's the page on that? I seem to have lost my place.
It's
245.
245. Okay, thank you. Yeah. 100 objects close by. I know a cure for sadness. Let your hands touch something that makes your eyes smile. I bet there are 100 objects close by that can do that. Look at beauty's gift to us. Her power is so great, she enlivens the earth, the sky, our soul. 100 objects close by. I know a cure for sadness. Let your hands touch something that makes your eyes smile. I bet there are 100 objects close by that can do that. Look at beauty's gift to us. Her power is so great, she enlivens the earth, the sky, our soul. How beautiful.
Yes. And it just reminds us to be present to our senses, to just be present to what is at hand, that
Right.
is beauty's gift to us. As long as we remain absorbed in our thoughts and other kinds of distractions, we're not aware of these things.
Yeah, I think last week we read the poem, and Swayam was saying that she's going to make that her homework for the week, is just to reach out and touch something. And I just even took my eyes and went, okay, I can look at this bowl of fresh peaches right in front of me. I mean, maybe can't touch them, but like you said, the senses. I mean, there's just
Yeah.
the beauty. It's just surrounding us if we just take the time to look at it and see it.
Yes. Which we so badly need that antidote for the other that is so present to us now.
Right.
Right. There's so much unpleasantness in the world. We need an antidote. Any other remarks on this lovely poem?
I wish I could share this person with y'all. I don't know how I would do it really. He's somebody that I follow on a social media platform, and he just pops up at random, and he always does the same thing and says the same thing. And he's a Native American guy, and he just does this 1 minute, and he's like, he kind of does this little laugh, and he said, here we meet again. And he said, you know what I'm going to say? Because he always says the same thing. He says, he does this little quick relaxation thing. He says, loosen your stomach, drop your shoulders, loosen your eye, or, relax your eyebrows and drop the tongue from the top of your mouth. And just for a moment. And then he kind of breathes in and breathes out. And he says, no matter, I don't know what's going on in your day today. I don't know what's happening has happened, but right now, for this moment, we're safe and we have this moment to be together, and that's something to be grateful for. He always says this, and he says, speaking of gratitude, take a look around, find one thing to be grateful for. He'll either say one or three. And then he looks around, and people, his followers, started commenting to him, please show us in your video what you're looking at when you look around and see the one thing or three things. So he's started doing that, and he'll see, like his kid playing, or this bird in a tree, or whatever his three things are. And then he goes, and then in writing, it just says, and you. And then he just says, see you soon. And there's something about him that just, he's
Beautiful.
so genuine and real. And you just feel like somebody has just, in 1 minute's time, just taken you out of time and space. And I immediately thought of it when Heidi was reading this poem, let your hands touch something that makes you smile. I'll bet there are 100 objects close by, and there are. That's the thing. And that this poem and that guy's dreadful bird. I'll see if I can share one of his with y'all, because it's just, he's really amazing. But so is this poem. And that's the thing. We get so caught up in usually just a couple of thoughts in our mind that can ruin our day, when there are 100 objects close by that just looking at them, not even touching them, but just really looking at them and seeing them, can change everything in that moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, sir. Beautiful. Amen. And Heidi, I really relate to that bowl of peaches, because I just went to Sherry's Produce down at the corner here recently, and got a bunch of amazing peaches. Just amazing.
Aren't they delicious? I get them every week.
Yeah, they're very good.
And the tomatoes and the corn.
Oh, I shopped her. That was my go-to last year during the pandemic, lockdown. That's where I shopped pretty much. So, and even my husband got some last week, and he got white peaches by accident. Oh man, they're really good. I prefer the other ones, but these white ones are pretty good too. And just something else on this poem, that when Cindy was talking about this guy she follows on social media, it reminded me of Deepak Chopra. I used to do his 21-day meditations, for quite a while. And it was more on perspective, but he had an example that he used where two people can go to the mailbox and just see things so differently. Like the first man gets up and before work, he walks to the mailbox, or, whatever time of day it is. And he just he hears the birds chirping, and he sees the clouds and the beautiful flowers and all that. And, oh, what a wonderful day it's going to be. And then another person goes to the mailbox, and they're just grumping, and they're going, oh, what bills am I going to have to pay now? And, so, and just on and on and on, and just how that can set the tone for your day, or, end your day. So that's a little different than I think this poem, but I just thought I'd throw it in there.
It's pointing at the same thing.
Right.
Be alert to what your senses are trying to tell you about, as Cindy was pointing out, the reasons to be happy and safe in this moment, rather than letting your mind go off in some direction backwards about some terrible thing that happened, or forward about some terrible things that might happen. Mark Twain said, in my life, 1,000 terrible things occurred to me, most of which never happened. Isn't that priceless? Good to
Um,
have you back, June. So good to hear you. So,
Brother Shankara,
yes, dear.
I wanted to share something that has been bringing smile to my eyes for last couple of days. One of our family friends from Florida are visiting us, and they have two little kids,
Uh,
7 and 5. The cutest little kids. I mean, they come every morning and they obviously call us grandparents and give us the sweetest of hugs. And so the other day before meal, I wanted us all to pray together, and of course Brahmarpanam is too much for me to explain to them. So I just said, let's pray, thank God for the food He has given us, and pray that it gets digested and goes to all the right places. I mean, it's just sort of all I could think of. And so they close their eyes, and the prayer they do so sincerely. And then they opened the eyes, and then the little guy closed his eyes again, and he for a few seconds, and he says, "Oh, I just added letter from Aryav." That's his name. So he added that letter from Aryav, and it's just
very,
so sweet and so sincere. Um, so that has been bringing smile to us every day. The
very
innocence
good.
of children.
Yes. Yes, little children are adorable. There's no two ways about it. And so are adults. We just don't sometimes we can't get past our first reaction to them.
That is true.
So Cindy, I noticed you had the book. You want to read this next one, please, and help him comfort?
Oh, sure. That's a short one. Okay. And help him comfort. God has a special interest in women, for they can lift this world to their breast and help him comfort. And help him comfort. God has a special interest in women, for they can lift this world to their breast and help him comfort.
And for all the men in the room, I will just say amen.
Well, it's comforting is something that men can learn to do too. It's, traditionally, I was hearing some people talking about this very recently, where throughout human history, women in most cultures, women will do something like cooking or taking care of kids just because they just moved to do it. It needs doing. And even though men could do it, they say, oh, well, it's something women are good at, so it must be a womanly thing. So it's not appropriate that we do it because it's not manly. But in our society today, that's not true at all. I mean, especially younger people, I just love how they are bending the genders, and men are doing traditionally women's jobs, both professionally and in their homes, and vice versa.
Well, all of what you said is very, very true, Cindy. And I'll just add that sometimes it's good for us to remember the context in which these poems were written. When Mirabai wrote this, women were objects, just a little above slaves. And the patriarchy, particularly where she was born and grew up, was so strong and so fierce that I think she felt, as it said in the introduction to her section, she was a fierce advocate for human rights, especially women's rights. And I think that that may be one of the reasons that this poem is here. Although I must say that by and large, well, one could say even pervasively, the patriarchy is still very much with us. Anybody else have anything to say about this short, sweet poem?
I also thought of Swami Prabhavananda's 7-point instructions at the back of Realizing God, one of them being people have a right to their pain and suffering, that what we must do is comfort and sustain.
Sustain and comfort, yes.
Sustain and comfort.
Thank you. Liam, do you have the book open there with you?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to read this next poem, or should I tell the other girls?
Absolutely. Just see, okay. To pull it up. What should I tell the other girls? I would not have set foot on this earth if my lover had not come. And what would I care for looking at form if you, God, had not sanctified all with your touch? The promise of your lips tricked me. Since I heard your name, I have been so eager for us to embrace. Why, Lord, did you make me stand in line? I got my arms around you last night. What should I tell the other girls? He was worth waiting for. Indeed. What should I tell the other girls? I would not have set foot on this earth if my lover had not come. And what would I care for looking at form if you, God, had not sanctified all with your touch? The promise of your lips tricked me. Since I heard your name, I've been so eager for us to embrace. Why, Lord, did you make me stand in line? I got my arms around you last night. What should I tell the other girls? He was worth waiting for. Indeed.
Anyone have anything to say about this lovely poem?
I do, Brother Shankara.
Please, Swayam.
A couple of things come to my mind. One is that last sentence. It is so reassuring, and taking a mystic, a saint's word as something that she would not have said if she had not experienced gives all the more encouragement to keep on the path that it's worth waiting for. That's one thing that comes to my mind. And the second one is that
We lost you, dear. The second thing is, and then we lost you.
be a negative sort of reaction,
Uh,
emotion.
you need to go back to the second when you said the second one is,
Oh,
because we heard the first one, but then we lost you. You just went silent.
oh,
So,
sorry, yeah.
so the second one is?
The second one is where she says, why did you make me stand in line?
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of converting a negative tendency into a Godward turn, making it uh, making it like more pure, sort of a complaint, but a Godward turn.
Well said. Well said. You know, both things. Yes, this poem is very reassuring, and it has her light, humorous touch. What should I tell the other girls? And it's the line about standing, the stanza about standing in line also caught my attention. It's that sacred impatience, not worldly impatience, but you know, and then she answers her own question by saying he was worth waiting for, indeed. But one of the things that I think is so powerful about this poem is right in the beginning. And what would I care for looking at form if you, God, had not sanctified it with your touch? The more we let our hearts rest on that, the more those 100 objects will make us smile.
I just wanted to add, that line that you just pointed out, and what would I care for looking at form if you, God, had not sanctified all with your touch? It stood out to me, particularly the second time, the second reading through, because the way that it's worded, to me, it sounds like it should end in a question mark, right? Like it sounds like it would be a question, right? Like, and what would I care for looking at form if you, God, had not sanctified all your touch? And especially, with the title of this poem being a question that starts with the word what. But this isn't a question. It doesn't end in a question mark. It's a definitive statement. So it kind of, I guess, to me, maybe suggests the certitude that she has of God, touching everything that that can be seen. And yeah, it just kind of was striking to me that this question, that this statement, in my mind, it sounds like it should be a question, but it's not written as one. It's written
No,
as a thing.
very well perceived, Liam. Yes, it is a statement of her experience. And it is an answer within the philosophical debate that goes on within what is properly called Sanatana Dharma, the perennial philosophy or perennial way of life, um, about whether to regard name and form, both of which she mentions in this early part of this poem. Regard name and form with a devotee's eye, which treasures them, sees them sanctified by the Lord's touch, or whether they should be said, well, this is impure because it's within the realm of name and form, and so I will discriminate against it. And Mirabai knows exactly what she's saying when she says, I would not set foot upon this earth if my lover had not come. And what would I care for looking at form if you had not sanctified all with your touch? Since I heard your name, I have been so eager for us to embrace.
So she followed him from wherever she was as a non-embodied being. And she's like, I wouldn't have come to this place.
Right.
He hadn't have come here. This is kind of funny, but way back in the dark ages of the early 80s, I wrote a song called Standing in Line for Your Love.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of the ones Tom Wolfe and I recorded on the Chase the Moon.
I'll have to go and listen to it.
I'll send it to you. But could have been Mirabai singing it. But yeah, I mean, I really like those first two sentences, first two lines, because she's saying, I was wherever I was. I wasn't even on this earth, but he went there, and I wouldn't have even come here. But he went there. I had to go.
Right.
Had to go and follow him and find him and stand in line if I have to.
Yeah, all of that.
Mm.
Okay. One mind. He was too shy to sing, but I taught him. The sky's voice is such that one's mind must be very quiet to hear God speak. One's mind. He was too shy to sing, but I taught him. The sky's voice is such that one's mind must be very quiet to hear God speak. And of course, we hear this from virtually every one of these saints, that through whatever process we use to calm our body and quiet our mind, so that we can sit still and do whatever it is that quiets our mind, then we feel that living presence. Anyone else have anything to say about this very poignant poem?
I have a question, Brother Shankara.
Yes, dear.
Why is she saying the sky's voice and
Oh,
then changing it to God?
Virtually every one of these saints, and of course it's embedded in not so much the canonical Gospels of Christ, but it is in the Gospel of Thomas. This business of God being everywhere present at every moment. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Turn over a rock, you will find me. The sky in its vastness, the sky in its I mean, if you just, particularly if you go someplace where the sky is not impeded by other things, like, for me, it was always the high desert in California. The sky just, it's the presence of the divine is tangible in the sky. So that's why from here, you ask me a question. Well, we can put the question to everyone. Why the sky? But that's the answer from here.
Thank you.
I mean, it's just like an equation. The sky, God, what's the equal sign? The quiet mind. Sky, quiet mind, presence of God. God speaking. Anyone else have anything to say about it? Well, I think we can all say that we each of us have our own way of quieting our mind. And the reason we do that, whether it's deep prayer or some form of meditation, some other yogic practice, the reason that we do that is because we sense something. When we get that quiet, we sense something. And that she is characterizing here as God speaking. That's how I hear it anyway. Swayam, have you read yet this evening?
No, Brother Shankara, I'll be happy to.
Okay, a great yogi.
Okay. A great yogi. In my travels, I spent time with a great yogi. Once he said to me, "Become so still, you hear the blood flowing through your veins." One night, as I sat in quiet, I seemed on the verge of entering a world inside so vast. I know it is the source of all of us. A great yogi. In my travels, I spent time with a great yogi. Once he said to me, "Become so still, you hear the blood flowing through your veins." One night, as I sat in quiet, I seemed on the verge of entering a world inside so vast. I know it is the source of all of us.
Very nicely read. Thank you.
I think this is kind of, again, a continuation of the previous poem, that in stillness we can hear God and see God, because in this it looks like it's more of her sight, a vision of entering. And the previous one she was hearing, and now it's seeing in quietness.
And once again, in the previous poem, it was the sky. Here it is, she simply characterizes it as a world inside, so vast. And that's one of the things that is so compelling about the sky. June, you've been so quiet. I'd really like to know what you have to say about this particular poem.
And what was the name of the poem?
Hang on. A great yogi.
Yes. I must admit, my mind was wandering.
Okay, I'll read the poem again.
Okay.
A great yogi, and just for clarification, the definition of a yogi, a real yogi, is one who lives in union with the divine and in a state of detachment from worldly entanglements, not apart from enjoying the world, but simply not entangled or limited by it. So that's what a yogi is. A great yogi. In my travels, I spent time with a great yogi. Once he said to me, "Become so still, you hear the blood flowing through your veins." One night, as I sat in quiet, I seemed on the verge of entering a world inside, so vast, I know it is the source of all of us.
I'm envious.
Did you say you're envious?
Yes.
Ah, well, we can
Because
all be envious of Mirabai, all right?
it's because it seems to be describing that perfect time you are with God when everything seems to stop and that time with God is the greatest gift that I think is given to us.
Yes. And once, one of the reasons it's such a great gift is, as some poet said, having seen the divine anywhere, you can see it everywhere. having truly seen the divine anywhere, you can see it everywhere. So that I think,
Yes,
yes,
it melts. Everything seems to melt away from you. And it's just pure ecstasy.
Mhm. Yes. And in that ecstasy, we can recognize this word that here is used as source. I know it is the source of all of us. Anyone else have anything to say about this?
Yeah, I would like that middle stanza there. Become so still, you hear the blood flowing through your veins. That just strikes me. It seems you almost have to like enter into that world, that she talks about in the next line. Um, like you become your blood, in other words, almost. It's just, it's just, it's quite something to do that.
Oh, yes. And it is a principle of yoga practice that this can actually be done. Those of you who practice hatha yoga, most of you, or probably all of you, have practiced Shavasana, being perfectly still and experiencing your being from the tip of your toes to the top of your head without moving a muscle and just becoming very, very still. Well, this can be continued until you actually experience what the yogi told her to do. And I think it's interesting that Mirabai is so honest with us, is that she says, I seemed on the verge of entering that world inside so vast. But she could see what was there. Anything else from anyone? Bart, do you want to sit close enough to the microphone here that everybody can hear you and read, I want you to have this?
Namaste, everyone. I want you to have this. I want you to have this. All the beauty in my eyes, all the grace of my mouth, all the splendor of my strength, all the wonder of the musk parts of my body. For are we not talking about real love? Real love. I want you to have this. I want you to have this. All the beauty in my eyes, all the grace of my mouth, all the splendor of my strength, all the wonder of the musk parts of my body. For are we not talking about real love? Real love.
Sounds like something that should be in the marriage ceremony.
How beautifully said. Yes. How beautifully said. Yes. Hmm.
In fact, if I get married again, I'm going to have that in the ceremony.
I love that, June. That's great. Yes. Well, I pray that you return to this realm of name and form, June, only if you wish to. Only if, like Mirabai, you wish to be here because your love is here. And if you get married again in this lifetime, I want to be there. Are we not talking about real love? Real love? What is she saying? She's saying, my love is so great for you, who I've seen the source of you. I've seen the source of all of us. And I want you to have all this that I have, all of it. And when she says the grace of her mouth, by that she means these beautiful poems and songs. The splendor of my strength. That's one of the things that I've noticed about these poets in this book. They're not at all shy about exulting in the splendor of their strength. Because they don't see it as their own, as a possession. It's just something to be shared. And she was strong, wasn't she? I mean, she would not be contained within the world that made her a piece of property that could be married off to a neighboring clan for political purposes. And then the musk parts of her body. There's nothing left out. Anyone else have anything to say about
I think again I am reminded of the previous two poems and the importance of being so still that we receive or we perceive or hear that um, love and fullness of God, so that then it can overflow from us to the others. Otherwise, we become empty so quickly. It is hard to give unless we are full.
it? Ah, the last words are priceless. It's hard to give unless we are full. Yes, And the secret is, of all of these saints tell us, is that we're always full, though it doesn't seem to us, and doesn't even sometimes seem to them. As St. Catherine of Siena says, there were times when I could not even dress myself. She couldn't get out of bed. She was so distressed. So there's no pretense about any of it, but all of them say that from their own experience. This is what Christ was gesturing toward when he said, "Be ye perfect, as my Father in heaven is perfect." Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, Beta. I can't talk right now. Can I call you back? I'm in class. Hello? Hello? That was a call about Shubra. Shubra lives here with us and went in and had a heart procedure today. I'm sure it's to tell me that she's, anyway, I should probably have just taken the call. Anything else from anyone about this poem by Mirabai? Heidi, would you like to read again? I write of that journey.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Okay. I write of that journey. I remember how my mother would hold me. I would look up at her sometimes and see her weep. I understand now what was happening. Love so strong a force, it broke the cage, and she disappeared from everything for a blessed moment. All actions have evolved from the taste of flight. The hope of freedom moves our cells and limbs. Unable to live on the earth, Mira ventured out alone in the sky. I write of that journey of becoming as free as God. Don't forget love. It will bring all the madness you need to unfurl yourself across the universe. I write of that journey. I remember how my mother would hold me. I would look up at her sometimes and see her weep. I understand now what was happening. Love so strong a force, it broke the cage, and she disappeared from everything for a blessed moment. All actions have evolved from the taste of flight. The hope of freedom moves our cells and limbs. Unable to live on the earth, Mira ventured out alone in the sky. I write of that journey of becoming as free as God. Don't forget love. It will bring all the madness you need to unfurl yourself across the universe. I mean, this kind of a little bit comes back to that first poem we read. Or one of them about, the comforting of a woman, you know.
Yeah.
And then I heard what June was saying in that other poem too about, everything goes away when you're just so close to God. And she understood that's her mother's love for her was just so great, like God's love is for us, that she now understands what was happening when her mother held her. And she just went away for a minute. She disappeared from everything for a blessed moment.
Yeah, she was just immersed in love.
Right.
Thank you, Heidi. And thank you for a very nice reading.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have anything to say about this? Love, so strong a force, it broke the cage, and she disappeared from everything for a blessed moment. I don't know if this is what she means or not, but she says all actions have evolved from the taste of flight. When I was 4 and 5 years old, I had a recurring dream. In utter blackness, but it wasn't a scary blackness. It was just deep, alive blackness. I would be flying, not in this bodily form, but in another form. And I would be with 4 other beings. The 5 of us would fly together. And it was exactly like you see these pictures of flocks of birds all flying together without any leader or coordination. Great flocks of birds doing that. And when I first read this poem, I thought, that certainly seems to have been a taste of flight because it was so free, so free. Anyone else have anything to say about this one? All right. Well, we'll start with Two Drunk Beauties, that wonderful poem that starts this section on Mirabai. We'll start there next week. Anything else from anyone about anything at all that you'd like to say or add? The past, untrue or true as I recall it, what does it matter now? All that became this moment, this crouching, pregnant moment. The past, untrue or true as I recall it, what does it matter now? All that became this moment, this crouching, pregnant moment. So until next week, a very sweet good night to all of you. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. May you have peace of mind. And may you go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the divine being as our mother and father. Any final thoughts from anyone? Okay, until next week.
Thanks,
Robert?
Shane.
Robert, next week maybe
Good
you
night.
let you talk you into saying a word. June, what were you about to say?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, just the remark you made about including that poem in the wedding vows was worth the price of admission for tonight, for sure.
That's right. June, I want a front row seat when you, if and when you get married, okay?
Yes.
I'll
Though,
sing at your wedding.
though I won't promise to come back in another lifetime.
That's right.
For
That's
that,
right.
but if you choose to do it that way.
This was wonderful. Thank you, Shankara, and everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. This is how we do this together, isn't it? Sweet, 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 sweet.
Wait.
Yes.
So, as my Celtic forebears used to say, a great good night to you. A great good night to you. May it please your wonderful self.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
96 is wonderful.
Well, good. I'm glad. I'm so glad. And I'm sorry you got driven away from Longboat Key by the red tide, dear.
Yes, but that's all right.
All right. Until next week, dears. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.